Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin in the Northwest Territories. The MLA for Toonaday-Willowday says he wants to improve cell service in the community of Dilo. It's a years-long issue that residents say is getting worse. As the CBC's Nadir Hashmi explains, even emergency responders can be hard to get a hold of.
Imagine having to drive a few miles just to make a phone call. For Dilo resident David Sangris, that's his reality. Poor cell service has made even a simple task frustrating and time-consuming.
I had to make an appointment for my son. I would have to park in front of Weavers, and if that wasn't good enough, I would have to go downtown, sit in a grocery store parking lot, just to make a phone call.
Sangris says the poor cell service affects the community the most during emergency situations.
If you call 911, when you call there, they will be hello, 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 be going back and forth. They'll hear me, and then I won't hear them. And sometimes if you just hang up and say never mind, they still send a squad car.
He says there have been few times where they needed an ambulance instead, leading to delays. The MLA for the community says the solution would be a new cell tower. He explained that the closest one is near Air Tindi float base, but a nearby hill blocks the signal from reaching Dilo, which is at a lower elevation.
Like yesterday, for me, to take this call, I have to come to downtown Yellowknife.
He says he has brought this issue forward in the Legislative Assembly, but hasn't seen any developments.
It's a public safety and emergency concern right now.
Joycon says all Dilo residents pay for 911 fees through their cell phone bills, but don't receive the critical service needed in the community. So now he wants to work with the Yellowknife Dene First Nation to write a letter to CRTC. That's the federal agency responsible for telecommunications.
We'll bring our concerns in writing to CRTC and then give them notice that this is a big issue, and especially for our community at Dilo.
A Bell Mobility spokesperson said in an email response that they are aware of the congestion in the Dilo area and have tried addressing it. They said, our teams worked to upgrade services on the island last year. We're not planning any further enhancements at this time. CBC also reached out to the territorial government but didn't get a response by deadline.
No good signal.
As Dilo residents wait for change, the struggle to stay connected continues. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Iqaluit RCMP are investigating a sudden death in the community. Police got a report of an unresponsive woman on December 26th. She was taken to Kikatani General Hospital and pronounced dead shortly after. The woman was 20 years old. Her name and the circumstances of her death have not been released. Government officials across the country are responding to an outbreak of bird flu, also called avian influenza or H5N1. The disease spreads from poultry and dairy cows to humans. It's not been detected in birds or humans in the Yukon yet, but the territory's top doctor says the possibility of infection is, quote, very top of mind.
Definitely on the radar. Too soon to make any definitive conclusions. There are indications that the largest risk factor for humans is actually kind of occupational exposure to animals, right? And certain specific animals that are at risk of having this particular highly pathogenic avian influenza. So we see it in exposures to birds and poultry, but also in exposures to dairy cattle, especially that's been noticed in the US, right? So too soon to make conclusions, lots of active monitoring, both from the health side and from the animal health side, right? And as we know more, we're going to be able to figure out how best to respond to this. So far, the evidence is building around the animal to human transmission. And what we're waiting on or worried about mostly is evidence of human to human transmission, right? Not a lot of evidence around that yet, but it's too soon to say whether there will be or whether there won't be. And so this is an area of like active monitoring, but you know, no firm decision making because there's nothing to base decisions on yet.
Ranaday says Yukon health authorities are actively reviewing pandemic policies in anticipation of an H5N1 outbreak in the territory. He says they're watching what happens in BC to learn about how the disease spreads and thinking about travel patterns to anticipate how the virus may enter the territory. The Yukon government says a water containment pond at Victoria Gold's Eagle Gold Mine could be leaking. Receiver PricewaterhouseCoopers notified the government about the situation last week. That was after it noticed irregularities in the pond's volume, the causes for which are still under investigation. The newly constructed pond is being used to store contaminated water. The management of that water has been a major issue since the mine's heap leach failed in June. Regulatory and enforcement agencies have been notified about the potential leak. Teams are also monitoring for any potential environmental impacts, including on nearby Haggard Creek. Wildfires are becoming more frequent and intense. It's something we hear about a lot, especially here in Canada's north. A new study published this week gives us more insight into just how intense they've become. One scientist says it underscores the importance of protecting communities. The CBC's Leanie Lambrink has more.
A new study looks at the severity of wildfires across Canada over the last 4 decades. One of the notable findings, the NWT and the Yukon have had about 47 severe fire days per year the last 20 years. A severe fire day is one where conditions are right for intense burning. The number is up by 2 to 3 days from the previous 2 decades. It may not sound like much, but the authors say a lot can happen in a short time. A fire that burned Jasper last summer swelled to 60 square kilometers in a matter of hours.
I went there, after about a month so by myself, and I did see the mineral just exposed everywhere, and the rocks on the ground cracked because of the heat. That is really impressive.
The study found that forests all across Canada are increasingly at risk of severe and uncontrolled fires. The situation is the worst in the country's northwest and northeast, and the report says human-caused climate change is to blame. Another one of the study's authors says it may sound grim, but there are things that can be done to protect communities.
Embers carried by the wind can travel 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, so it's really hard to manage fuels 3 kilometers around communities. That's why Fire Smart, which looks at, building materials as well as having no vegetation, flammable material within 1.5 meters of your home. That and using sprinklers can be a very effective way of protecting the structure, your home, your business.
Flanagan says Fire Smart principles should become mandatory in high-risk places. The study suggests its findings could also be used to plan prescribed burns, mapping out the best places and times to burn forest intentionally in an effort to ward off bigger fires. Leanie Lambrink, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A local Yellowknife boy is catching the attention of international soccer scouts, and it's not even the first time that he's done so. Jocelyn Chappelle has more.
A rising young soccer phenom from Yellowknife is heading back to Europe, competing against peers from around the world. Yuma Taba has been a fan of soccer since he can remember. Yuma says it began when he was younger, kicking his sister's ball around the house. It was in 2023 that he caught the eye of soccer scouts at a camp in Edmonton. They asked him to attend a Real Madrid tournament in Madrid. Now at 10 years old, he returned last month from a youth tournament in Barcelona.
It was very competitive, and I got the motivation to train harder, to play with them when I'm older, and I hope that happens.
Yuma impressed the scouts again while there. At the end of the tournament, he was asked to come back to Europe. So this June, he's planning on returning to Madrid. It's a place he has his sights set on for the future.
I want to play professional in Europe and play for Real Madrid and play for the Canada national team and to win the World Cup with them.
Yuma trains a lot with his dad, Mahir Taba. Mahir says he and his wife are proud of their son.
It's a lot of hard work behind the scenes, but we all enjoy it and we love to do whatever we can do for this little champ. Hopefully he'll be big champ one day.
Right now, Yuma plays in the Galaxy Soccer Club. He's been placed in the U15 division, which means competing with players up to 5 years older. Jocelyn Chappelle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Canada's time at the World Junior Hockey Championships is over. The team lost its quarterfinal game with the Czech Republic last night 4-3.
Here's defeated by the cross. Yeko scores! Adam Yeko, power play goal, and the Czechs lead with 39 seconds to go.
That game-winning goal came in the final minute, sending heartbroken Canadian fans and players home. The young Canadian players battled back to tie the game after falling behind 3-1. But in the end, it was penalties and a late power play that was the team's demise. Yukoner Gavin McKenna made history by becoming the first Indigenous hockey player from the Yukon to play at the World Juniors. He spoke about the game after the team's disappointing finish.
I wish could have did more for the fans and people of Canada. It sucks we had to go out this way, but I hate to say it, but there's always next year. So I wish we could have got it done this year, but look at the positives, I guess.
You're still young. How will you use this experience if you are on the team next year and through the rest of this year?
Just kind of cherish all the moments you got with your teammates. You know, I built some really good friendships with these guys here. We went through a lot together, so it kind of sucks we couldn't do it for each other, and it ended so quick. So just making sure I'm making the best of all these moments.
With the championship being closer to home this year, many across Nunavut were anxiously watching. Tommy Bruce of Rankin Inlet is in Ottawa. He has been to every Team Canada game since the tournament began.
It's been pretty good reffing, but they missed quite a few. And then after that sort of non-penalty, I started yelling to the crowd, I guess, "Ref, you suck." And I got the whole arena going. So that was a pretty good feeling.
The puck will drop for the semifinals on Saturday afternoon without Canada. As for McKenna, he finished the tournament with 1 goal. Now he is 17 and will be eligible, as you heard, to play again for Team Canada. Minnesota is hosting the next World Juniors.
The Kanuipita National Inuit Health Survey team is going to every community in Nunavut, speaking to Inuit about their health and wellness. And every answer will help us as Inuit determine our own priorities for a healthier future. Together, we will answer the question, Kanuipita, how are we? Find out when we're coming to your community. Learn more at qnihs.ca.
Alcoholics Anonymous. We're here to help. For more information, visit aa.org and download the Meeting Guide app.
Earth is our collective home that makes us all family. As family, we strive to love and protect each other. Diversity of species is our strength. We are all connected. We survive and thrive together. We celebrate many things this season and make many choices. Taking care of our family should be the easiest. We're in this together.
Being there means being here. Russian forces, they want it badly. It's just a fraction of the mess here in Port-au-Basque. To witness, to listen, to share. I do worry about them. Adrian Arsenault reports on CBC News. Stream free.
We're often drawn to people who have something we want in ourselves.
But it doesn't mean living like you're running out of time. It means living in a place of hope.
Longtime Whitehorse City Councillor Dave Stockdale died on New Year's Day. This week, many are remembering his love for sport and his passionate approach to politics. Starting in the 1970s, Stockdale was a coach and later an organizer for a number of Whitehorse sporting events. He was inducted into Sport Yukon's Hall of Fame in 1987. After entering municipal politics, he became the longest-serving politician in the Yukon's history, serving for over 30 years on Whitehorse City Council. Former colleague Doug Graham served alongside him.
That's a long time for a guy to be on council and to get reelected. And I think that goes to show the impact he had on people, and that people recognize that this guy really cared about them. So yeah, it's truly a great legacy.
Stockdale was 84. With the holidays winding down, the spotlight is coming back on the Liberal leadership turmoil. Justin Trudeau was said to be reflecting on his future after calls for him to resign. Very soon, his party will expect an answer. The CBC's Evan Dyer reports.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
A week ago, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went on vacation skiing in British Columbia. Last night, he returned to Ottawa, emerging briefly today to sign a book of condolence for former President Jimmy Carter at the U.S. Embassy. But he still has given no indication of whether he'll respond to the calls from within his own party to step aside.
It's been a long time since Chrystia Freeland stepped down. It's been a long time since Donald Trump's been elected. It's been a long time since that tweet about the 25% tariffs. The Prime Minister has been exceedingly quiet.
Yesterday, former Cabinet Minister Marco Mendicino became the latest Liberal to announce he won't be running again. In a letter explaining his decision, he thanked a number of people, but as with some other departing Liberals, Justin Trudeau wasn't one of them. Today, the caucus chair of the Liberal Party held a virtual meeting with regional caucus chairs. The Atlantic, Quebec and Ontario caucuses, which together represent the great majority of Liberal MPs, have already said they want Trudeau to go.
Hopefully comes that it is a very respectful message to the leader that it is time for the party to be pragmatic and for him to step down. The caucus chairs, in my view, should provide some advice as how the best way forward. And so, of course, my advice would be prorogue, resign, and then, have a leadership process that puts us in solid, a solid position to govern the country and look after our relationship with the United States.
When you're told that change is coming and that you're being listened to, and then the change doesn't come and it doesn't appear that you were listened to, and then at the same time, Canadians are sending you a message through polls that they're not happy with you, and yet no change happens.
The latest poll from Angus Reid shows new lows in vote intentions and approval ratings for both the Liberal Party and Justin Trudeau. It also suggests that among those generally considered frontrunners to replace him, it's Chrystia Freeland and not Mark Carney, who has the greatest potential to draw disenchanted voters back into the Liberal fold. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
New rules designed to make it easier to purchase a home have come into play for the new year. Unfortunately, there aren't enough homes for all the people who want one, and new construction isn't keeping up with demand. That has some Canadian companies looking to robots to speed up the building process. Anis Haydari has that story.
They're now actually building a real home.
In this Alberta warehouse, machines are assembling houses the same way they'd assemble a car.
The same two robots are building all the 25 walls that are going into the same house. And you can see over there, we got two more robots. They're building all the floors of the same house.
Promise Robotics is developing ways to build housing using commercial, mass-produced machinery, not custom.
These robots basically are off the shelf.
The company says its AI software means these robots can complete dozens of tasks.
We actually don't expect ever builders to learn about robotics, machinery, manufacturing, and that's why we think there is a scalable play here, where you can now take it to many, many more builders and developers across US and Canada.
This type of technology could speed up construction as Canada faces a housing crunch. It's not the only Canadian housing tech out there. Horizon Legacy develops technology that can pour concrete, a robot named Val.
Val can lift 230 kilograms day in and day out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So she's taking the manual labor intensive part, the back-breaking part.
But While broader industry players say robotics can speed things up, the investments are expensive and housing can be unpredictable.
The industry is built to withstand boom-bust nature of the housing market, and large overhead becomes more difficult to be nimble.
The Home Builders Association points out regulations and zoning are also ways to speed up construction, not just robots. But back at Promise, they say their tech can cut house construction time in half.
They're basically like a Legos, right? Like once you produce those, then you're able to put them together really fast.
Brick by brick or gear by gear. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Edmonton.
Winter weather hasn't stopped some Nova Scotians from hitting the beach. They're part of a citizen coastal monitoring group collecting data on soil erosion. The program also hopes to boost community understanding and resilience to climate change. Moira Donovan has more.
Can you hold this up here?
On a cold December day, Robin Metcalf and other citizen scientists assemble a device on the sand. This beach profiler, made of curtain rods, wing nuts, and a pocket level, is measuring the erosion at this beach.
We know over time how the beach, how it changes with the seasons and how it changes over time with climate change.
This monitoring work is part of a citizen science project that aims to fill data gaps on the Eastern Shore. Citizen scientists are making monthly measurements of 4 beaches in the area. Metcalf and others are also using automated weather stations and rain gauges to generate data on conditions at their homes.
It can be monitored in real time anywhere. Anyone who has an internet connection in the world can see what the weather is on where my house is.
The project started this past year with support from the Anglican Church. Reverend Marian Lucas Jeffries, coordinator of the Diocesan Environmental Network, says the focus on citizen science made it the right fit for the network.
One of the things about citizen science is that people learn, and I've learned a lot from this project. People learn how to take action in times of climate change. It's empowering, and it builds community amongst people.
For the next 3 years, it'll be part of a larger research project led by Dalhousie University. Lead researcher Camila Botero says the Coastal Monitoring Network means members of the community are directly involved in observing what's happening with climate change.
Now we have 4 coastal climate teams. They are not big, there are not many people, but they are the right people, is that the volunteers now, the coastal scientists, they are really engaged in their mission. They understand why they are doing that and why it's important for them.
Botero says this not only provides information, it also helps communities in a data-poor part of the province make decisions about how to manage climate risks. Robin Metcalf agrees.
We're part of the process of forming the picture of what's happening, and by the same token, we should be part of the process of deciding what needs to be done.
Moira Donovan, CBC News, Sheet Harbour.
A young budgie in Iqaluit is safely back home after deciding to spread his wings on Christmas Day. Blue snuck out of the door of his home when his family left to go to the quick stop. He spent 7 days on the loose in sub-zero temperatures. His owner, Leah Novalinga, says the family searched all over town for their beloved pet. They even played YouTube videos of his favorite budgie influencer, did not know those existed, hoping to get his attention. She says they were heartbroken when they couldn't find him.
I thought I would never see him again. I really thought he was eaten by a raven.
Novalinga spread the word about her missing budgie. Then, on New Year's Day, Kathy McGee says she heard an unexpected noise while out walking her dog.
There was this chirping noise in my backyard, and I did a double take. I couldn't believe it. And I looked to my left and I saw a bird. And I thought, oh my God, that's the bird.
McGee was able to capture Blue and bring him back to Novalinga. Novalinga says Blue was hungry and had lost weight as a result of his ordeal, but she's happy to have him back. Nunavut posted more than 60 record-high temperatures in December. That's according to Environment and Climate Change Canada. Several of those records were broken in Arvit, where temperatures between Christmas and New Year's were frequently above -10. That's compared with seasonal averages around -25. On December 29th, the daytime high in Arvit eclipsed the previous record set last year by 11 degrees. Environment and Climate Change Canada calls those temperatures astounding.
And so even now, when we see these temperatures of -30, so they're seeing some severe wind chills, but I can remember days in those communities when we see temperatures in the -40s to -50s without wind chill. So it has been really remarkably warm.
Proctor says the west coast of Hudson's Bay could see more warm temperatures starting next Tuesday, but it will cool down considerably in late January. He says southern Baffin Island can expect more seasonal temperatures going forward. Nunavik also saw unseasonably warm weather in December, breaking a total of 30 records for daytime highs. Meanwhile, in other parts of the north, this year is off to a cold start. There are extreme cold warnings in place in several NWT and Yukon communities. Wind chills are expected to be around -50 to 55, depending on your community, and those could last throughout the weekend. With that in mind, let's take a look at the weather. And we are just now hearing that some areas of Fort Smith NWT are experiencing a power outage this evening. The Community and Recreation Center at 108 King Street will act as an emergency warming shelter for those affected by the outage. The emergency warming shelter will be open until 11 p.m. or later if needed. Fort Smith Protective Services is asking residents to check in with family and friends to ensure their safety. To contact the emergency warming shelter or the Community and Recreation Center, you can call the number on your screen right now. That's 1-867-872-8228. That's for Fort Smith residents in the NWT. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a great weekend.
How can any of this be fair?
Now you might think, hey, we just need more doctors, but that's not really it.
Russian scheme here.
Shows you where it starts, where it ends.
Were you really willing to risk that job? Yes.
At Thunder Bay's favorite festival, Wake the Giants.
Ta-da! There it is.
Stream anytime. CBC News.